Hello and welcome back. And in this video, we're going to be looking at shape trim animation. So trim modifier trims any given shape by a fractional amount based on its representation as a path. Basically, the path is drawn and then trim is applied and it slowly trims away or fulfills the path. So shape trim is an animatable property, and we're gonna look at how to create a custom progress bar by using shape trim modifier or trim modifier. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a state property to track a progress, and we're gonna start with 1.0, like 100% as you progress, and we're gonna basically go down. Now you can reverse this and you can make basically your progress go forward by starting with 0.0, but I'm going to show you how you can reverse the progress by starting the progress from 100% going down to 0%. Okay. All right, next thing we need is basically a timer, which is going to publish the time. Let's make sure that it's auto connected. And what we're going to do is we're going to start our canvas, and we're going to start by drawing some shapes that are provided by SwiftUI. So we're going to start with a circle. And in order to apply a trim modifier, we simply need to say .trim. And if you notice, the trim takes from and to value, and by default these values are not required, so we're going to actually make sure that we actually provide these values, and we want to make trim go from to progress. Okay, so our from value will be 0, and the progress or to value is going to be the progress. We also want to make sure that we actually only draw the stroke, although you can apply trim on a complete circle shape as well, but you can also use a stroke. So let me go ahead and first show you what it looks like when you apply a trim on a circle without stroke, and then we're gonna create the stroke. Okay, so first thing first, we're gonna basically animate these changes by putting a spring animation. Let's put some damping fraction of about 0.3. The value that we're gonna observe is going to be the value of progress, and we want to say when you receive the timer publisher, we don't care about the input, but we want to make sure that progress goes down by 0.1. Okay, and we want to say if the progress reaches or it is less than 0, in that case we want to set the progress back to 1.0. all right, so I don't know if you noticed, but there is a basically a progress animation that already started, which sort of trimmed the shape. As you can see, this is how the trim on a completed or like, a complete circle without stroke looks like. All right, we're gonna draw a stroke on this. So we're gonna say stroke, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna give this stroke a color. All right, as you can see, the stroke is drawn, and this looks a lot like our progress bar, but we need a little bit style. So let's go ahead and style the stroke with a line width of 10 points. Let's go ahead and add some padding. All right, so this is what our progress view looks like. Now, if you notice, our progress is starting from the trailing edge. Now, if you want to move this, you can apply a rotation of 9 degrees. We're going to just leave it like this. Now, let's go ahead and apply the same concept on another shape. So we're going to basically use a rectangle. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it, and the only thing that we're going to change is basically defining this as a rectangle. And as you can see, now you have a rectangular progress bar. Let's go ahead and repeat this again, and let's do this with capsule. Also with ellipse. Last but not the least, we're going to do the same for rounded rectangle, but rounded rectangle needs a corner radius, so we're going to say it's about 20 points. Let me go ahead and zoom out a bit so you can see, and this is how our progress looks like. So as you can see, some of these basically start like at the leading, because that's where this shape is drawn. So it basically depends where your path has drawn from. That's where the default value of the progress starts. Okay, so this was about the built-in shapes. Now, does it work with the custom shapes, the shapes that you create? Well, it does. So trim works with custom shapes as well. And we're going to see an example by creating a star shape and applying the trim animation to that star shape. So let's go ahead and create a new shape. In order to create a new shape, we conform to shape protocol. Now, shape protocol requires us to basically fulfill certain minimum requirements. One of the minimum requirement, or the only minimum requirement for the shape protocol, is to have a path function definition. So whoever is basically creating a new shape, they should provide the definition what the path of that shape is going to look like. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to basically first accept a couple of properties. One, how many points this star is going to have. We're going to set it default as 5, and there's going to be a value for inner ratio, and we're going to set that to 0.2. Now it's time to draw our path. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create some variables that is going to help us basically draw the path. Okay, so we're going to start by creating a center variable or a constant with a let. What we're doing here is we are basically the shape of the rectangle. Let me go ahead and first return a path. Okay, and let's go ahead and stop this. Okay, so what we're doing here is, in order to get center, we're gonna go basically to the middle of the rectangle. So rectangle is basically the bounds that is provided by the system SwiftUI whenever this shape is created. Whenever this shape is, like, for example, when this circle is created, its outside bound is actually provided, and that bound is in the form of CGRect. So what we can do is we can basically get half of the width and half of the height, which is going to leave us right here in the middle, which is basically the center. So that's what we are computing here. Okay, next thing, we're going to compute the angle. And the angle will depend upon how many points do we want to display inside the for this star shape. Let's create a path, and this is going to be a variable, not a constant, because we want to modify this. All right, instead of returning this path, we're going to return the path variable that we have just created. Now we want to create a start point. So start point for our star is going to be at 0, 0. We also want to know what the outer radius for this star is going to be. So let's go ahead and create a constant for that. And to match that, we're going to have an inner radius, which is basically going to use the outer radius times the inner ratio that we have created right here. Okay. Now let's go ahead and define the maximum number of corners. Now star is going to have double the corners of the points. So basically this is going to be a simple computation, just applying multiplication by 2 or doubling the number of points. All right, finally we are ready to draw our star. Now, when we're drawing our star, we're going to use a for loop, and we're going to basically iterate until we are 1 less than maximum corners. Because we are starting from 0, we're going to basically reach until 1 less than maximum corners. Essentially, we are drawing that many corners for the star. Inside, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to compute a radius. We want to make sure that where do we draw our point. Now the star, if you look at the star shape, it's actually drawn where you have an inner circle and you have an outer circle. Now for every corner that is actually divisible by 2, meaning it's an even point, we want to draw on an outer circle, and for every odd corner we want to draw in the inner circle. So that's what this radius is gonna give us access to, basically knowing which corner we are at this point. So what we're doing here is we are computing the value of x where we're gonna draw our point. Now our point is basically gonna be anything that has, like, it's gonna start from the center, but we wanna add basically to the radius. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a bit of math to compute the cosine value by multiplying corner and angle, and then we're going to multiply that with the radius. This is going to give us the corner point. So basically, let's say if you are here is the center, it's going to give us somewhere around here, 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 like that. Okay, now for the inner radius, that's going to be the case. For the outer radius, it's going to be a bit far, but it's going to basically give us all the points where we are going to draw those lines. Okay, now we're going to do the similar computation for the y value, but we're going to change. Instead of computing cosine value, basically we're going to compute sine value. Okay, and that's going to be the only difference other than basically adding to the y value, and this variable is going to be called y. So once again, we're going to take our double, multiply it by angle, get the sine value, and multiply that with the radius to get the y point. Now we are ready to basically get our point. So we're going to say CG point from x and y, supplying x and value of y that we have just computed. Okay, now we want to make sure that we are not at the 0th corner, meaning if we are at the 0th corner, that's where we are starting from. So we want to actually start the point from there. We want to draw the first point there. So if the corner is 0, then we want to actually set that as the start point. And we want to move our path to that point. If it is not, then we simply want to add a line using addLine function, which takes a point. Now, next thing we want to do is we want to make sure if the corner, so before we exit this loop, if the corner is equal to the max corners minus 1, okay, so it has reached the last one, we want to add path dot add line to start point, basically completing the entire shape. All right, with that, our star shape should be ready now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna first try it out by drawing a star inside our example. So let's go ahead and put a star, and we're gonna simply create the star, and as you can see, our star is created. Let's go ahead and give it points, maybe 4-point star, and it's gonna change like that, or 3-point star, which is gonna be shaped like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a 6 points, and this is how it's gonna look like. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take everything else out, and I'm going to comment it so you still have all the code, and I'm going to center it. Now we're going to basically apply a stroke to this. So stroke, color dot orange, style, line width 10, and there we have our star. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to basically apply the trim to this. All right, let's go ahead and build, and as you can see, our star is now basically a progress view, just like what you had in other shapes. Okay, so this is how you can draw your custom shapes, and you can also basically animate them using animatable properties. All right, with that, we have reached the end of this video. Thanks again for watching.